Hello, and welcome to Alcohol Free Radio. I'm your host, Chris Becker, and I'm excited to have you join us. Whether you are new to the amazing and growing alcohol-free community or someone who is already familiar, we hope you enjoy our program. This is where you can hear from some people making a real difference, whether as brewers or producers of amazing beverages, influencers in the community, authors, storytellers, and more. We aim to break it down and bring it all together. Our goal is simple: to build awareness about this great community and to help make alcohol-free fun, easy, and tasting great. So here we go. Enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to Alcohol Free Radio. I'm Chris Becker, and I'm excited to introduce you to this episode of Meet the Makers, featuring our CEO, Dan Stiller, and Jessica Selander, who is the founder of Jøyus, a wine creator here in North America. I think this story talks a lot about the positivity of alcohol-free wine and how that can be seen as a net gain. And Jessica is definitely a leader and thought leader and making it happen for real in that space. So excited to bring you this episode. Enjoy.
Hi, everybody. It's Daniel Stiller from Better Roads, and this is another edition of Meet the Makers. And today I'm really excited to have Jessica Selander with us of Jøyus. Jessica is the founder of Jøyus, and she most recently launched a couple new labels. But I would love for Jess to tell us of her new lineup, what she's most excited about, as well as share with us some cool stories about the development of Jøyus and just the brand as a whole. But Jess, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Excited to be here.
I was so excited to have you. Jess and I have been talking for a long time. We actually first got to know each other in New York, and I've just been really excited to get her on the show. She's a compelling personality, has really cool insight about the industry, but has also created this amazing brand that we both kind of identified with, of this main message of this is about celebration and this is about joy. And what better way to express that than a brand that's called Jøyus?
Yep.
So,
and that was the funny thing when you and I first met in New York, because you were talking about that, about how it's about celebrating and feeling like everyone else. I think I just turned around and grabbed one of our bottles, because every single bottle says, let's celebrate, across the top.
So how did you come up with the name? Like, what was it?
I'm sober. I quit drinking a number of years ago, and that's why I started Jøyus. I wanted a premium non-alcoholic wine, a dry non-alcoholic wine. And at the time, now is a whole exciting world of options and choices, and that did not exist when I was first looking into it. And so I think for a lot of people, when you are not drinking or you quit drinking, there's this fear that you're never going to have that joy again, that you can't have fun, that you can't be around people, that you can't celebrate. And so, I really wanted to focus on that, and to focus on the positivity, and not focus on that the alcohol's been removed, but like that, hey, this is wine. It smells like wine. It tastes like wine. The corks pop, like the sparkling wine. The alcohol's just been taken out, right? So you can have that joy and that experience and that social.
And I think that's something, and I've talked about this before, is that the narrative around alcohol free has always been this kind of negation. It's always been the negative, right? It's this, and that's why, I loved our conversation, that conversation about celebration, about Jøyus. And, as much as you've talked about your personal journey, it's not just about a personal engagement. It's about that entire table. And that was something else that we kind of shared, is that it is really about not just, it's about community.
Yes. Yeah.
And you make that's part of your branding as well.
For sure. And our big thing is, including everybody, and just, having everybody be able to participate, because we, a lot of folks that love Jøyus and drink Jøyus are non-drinkers completely, and there's a lot of people that do still drink. And then there's people that they like it because the calorie content is like so low. That one, totally honest, like it was just a happy side effect. When you take the alcohol out and you don't put in a bunch of sugar, the calories drop crazy. Like an alcoholic bottle of sparkling is about 600 calories, sometimes more. Our sparkling is 90 calories a bottle.
Wow.
And so and like I said, happy side effect because we were just completely going for taste, dry, not sweet, non-alcoholic wine. And so we get folks that, are doing low carb or keto, or they're, diabetics, and it's just like, when I love that, I love that it just gives more options for people to be able to be a part of dinner parties, New Year's Eve, any holiday that you want to celebrate.
And, we're talking about celebration, we're talking about joy, and that is definitely, the fun of what we do. But it's we were talking earlier, it's not an easy business, and creating your own wine label, creating your own product, that's not an easy thing to do. But one thing I've failed to mention is that it's not just Jøyus, it's the multi-award winning Jøyus. And there's a couple questions I'd love to ask you. And one is, it is a grind. What keeps you motivated? And the other questions is going to be a two-parter, so bear with me. Of your new products, what are you most especially proud of?
Oh man, okay. I'll do the first one first. What keeps me going is that I just really, really deeply believe in this. And it took me so long, like so long to get here, where, to the world, Jøyus has been available, to drink and to celebrate with for August of 2021 is maybe September 1st, 2021 ish. You know what I mean? Like it's really, but it took me 7 years and that was when I made the decision, yes, I'm going to do this. Yes, this is the path I'm going to move forward with and try and figure this out. Because I had honestly tried to just find something else to buy, and just and couldn't, nothing. It didn't exist. There was one sparkling wine in the entire country. There was one red and there was one white, and I bought gallons of it. And I wanted something else, and it just didn't exist. So 7 years of trying to talk to people, and find out how you make non-alcoholic wine and how I can do it differently. And in that time, I talked to over 100 people in the wine industry, and like 90-something% of them were like, it's a terrible idea. Nobody wants that. There's not a market for that. You know what I mean? Like, quote unquote, over and over again. The response was overwhelmingly negative. So it's like, it's one of those things where I've already had that, and I went through that, and I kept doing, I kept on going for like years and years. So at this point, where we get feedback that's like, I love it. It's like, it's really,
the landscape
really
has
nice.
changed, right? The landscape, you know more than anyone. The landscape has changed.
Oh, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. And the deeper answer is that I know that my life is easier, and when I have non-alcoholic, whatever it is, and for me, when I am at a holiday party, when I'm at like a dinner, when I'm around other people, there's a part of my brain that's paying really, really close attention to what other people are drinking when it's alcohol, and when I have Jøyus, when I've got a non-alcoholic wine in my glass, that part of my brain turns off. And for me, it's a relief, but for me, it helps me stay sober. And I know that I'm someone that I really need to keep this, my plan is long-term sobriety. I like my life. I'm really grateful for the life I have, and I owe that life, to being sober. And so I think that these products are life-changing and life-saving for a lot of people. And so it's, that's it's a much deeper reason to keep it going when I'm tired. And we get that feedback from people too.
I was going to say, you must get that feedback.
Yeah.
And that's this. So I've had similar feedback. I'm obviously from a different position, but of all my careers, this is the first time I've had customers reach out and say, not only have you improved my life, you've potentially saved it. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I never had that as a professor, that's for sure. Never had it in the automotive industry. But it's compelling, and it does kind of motivate you, like you said, to keep pushing, because it's not easy. And you've had 101 no's before someone says yes. But speaking of yes, and speaking of celebration, and speaking of the changing narrative, I'd love to hear about your most recent successes and what you're most proud of.
Yes. So
let's celebrate this.
Let's celebrate. So we've got, we now have 4 Jøyus non-alcoholic wines. We've got our sparkling wine, Sir White, sparkling rosé. And now we have a non-alcoholic rosé, so no bubbles. People are asking for that. And we've got our Cab Sauv, that just came out. So our sparkling rosé last year was the first non-alcoholic wine to win gold in an industry wine competition, which was kind of...
It's amazing.
Oh my goodness. It was just like...
And just to be clear, industry wine competition.
Yeah.
Not...
It's like...
Go ahead.
And well, here's the funny thing too, where I'd been telling people it tastes like wine, it tastes like wine, it tastes like wine. People are like, you mean grape juice? And I'm like, no, it tastes like wine. It's like non-alcoholic beer tastes like beer. This tastes like wine. I'm talking to my brother, and he's like, nobody believes you. He's like, wine enters into wine stuff. You need to enter this into wine stuff. And so I looked up and I was like, okay, well, here's this wine competition. If we 2-day mail it, we'll get it in time for the deadline. Mailed it off, and then just kept on running because, there's a million things to do. Got the email back maybe like a month and a half, 2 months later. It was like, oh, you've won. And then I looked at the competition more in depth, and it was like, oh, it's the biggest and oldest wine competition in the country. We had over 3,000 entries. And I was like, oh my goodness. So industry wine competition, you can go even deeper. It's one of the biggest and oldest in the world, and it's the biggest and oldest in the United States.
It's amazing. And you've taken that's, and I think that's worth celebrating, and celebrating more is that, this product has come so far, and it's because of innovators like yourself who've pushed against the boundaries, and pushed against that narrative that, if it's not alcoholic, it has to be cheap. So people weren't willing to invest, but our customers are arguing the opposite, that they want great tasting product because they want something that treats them like an adult, that's sophisticated, that's an adult taste profile, and congratulations. But
thank you. So so keep it going. So I'm
gonna let you keep it going, because that's just one. I'm really there's a wine I want you to talk about, because I'm super excited about it.
The sparkling wine won that year too. They both won awards, but it was just our rosé was our gold medal baby. So we had 2 new wines in 2022, and we're like, let's do it again. Let's enter them again. Super nervous, like so nervous about it, because winning wine awards was amazing, and it's a rigorously blind competition. And so this year, I think maybe because we touted the awards so much last year, a lot of non-alcoholic wines entered the competition this year. So there was a non-alcoholic category, and we did enter them into that. And our new Cab Sauv won silver, which is the highest a non-alcoholic red has gotten. And then our still rosé won double gold. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that there's anything bigger, like double gold. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And then
this is in the wine competition. This isn't a non-alcoholic wine competition. This is in a wine competition.
The San Francisco International Wine Competition. And so the still rosé won double gold and won best in class. So this year there was like a lot of non-alcoholic wines entered, a lot of the major folks entered. And our non-alcoholic rosé won best in class. Out of all the non-alcoholic wines entered, it was the best out of any varietal, whatever. Yeah. And we were in a Forbes article. I mean, it was a Forbes article about the competition, because they're like, it's the most prestigious competition in the United States, but it's all alcohol. It's all alcohol wines. And then there's ours. And there's even like a photo in the article of like the different rosés. And there's our non-alcoholic rosé sitting with the alcohol rosés. And that's like, you know, our mission is to normalize non-drinking, that this isn't, it's perfectly fine, you know, for folks that are drinkers to drink alcohol, but it's also perfectly fine for folks that are not drinkers to not drink alcohol, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that one's not accepted yet. But things like that, when people who are wine industry people, when they're wine drinkers, when they're just people reading this article to see what's the best, what's the top wines in the world, and they're like, oh, there's a non-alcoholic wine in there. It just, you know, it opens people's minds to A, this stuff exists, and B, that it deserves to be there. You know?
Well, and not only that, but like you said, it's, you know, it's perfectly fine for people who drink alcoholic wines to drink alcoholic wines. But now you're showing that it's also perfectly fine for them to drink non-alcoholic wines. So
exactly,
you know, if I look at the dinner table and I've got 20 people around the table, if I serve on one of your non-alcoholic cab, your non-alcoholic rosé, I know everyone around the table can drink it. Everyone can.
Yes. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Like, as opposed to, you know, if I serve this, I've got, you know, 20% who don't want to drink it. Probably maybe another 15% who probably shouldn't drink it. And or, you know, just because they're driving tonight, or maybe they haven't been feeling well, or maybe they're on medication, or, you know, there's so many different reasons. But for non-alcoholic, everyone can drink it. And that's, to be recognized like that is incredible. The Cab Sauv is something I'm really excited about. Because I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges in the wine industry, is getting a great red. You know, the bottle looks beautiful, the branding looks beautiful, and the product's beautiful.
That's one of the big things too, where it's like, I feel like the whole experience is important, you know, where you want the taste to stand up, you want the taste to belong there, and be like you said, something adult. You know, and our goal is to taste as much like wine as humanly possible. But I also think that, you know, when you set these bottles next to alcohol bottles when you're having that dinner party, I really wanted them to feel like they belonged there. You know, that it wasn't like a cheap glass, it wasn't like a cheap label, that it was like, yeah, this is a viable option. I'm an adult buying a premium product, and it happens to not have, you know, alcohol in it.
You're not pouring it out of a 2-liter twist off capped
nope.
plastic bottle on the table.
Mm-mm.
And I'm really excited about what you're doing, about, you know, our people who shop at Better Rose, to learn about not just your story, but the product and the recognition it's received.
When I first found you guys, it was just like, oh my goodness. I mean, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, like, Better Roads could not have existed. You know, the fact that you exist, to me personally, it's just so exciting, you know, and you can go to one place and you're like, because everybody's got different tastes, right? But you can go to one place and you can be like, oh, what's this about? What's that about? Non-alcoholic spirits? Wow, how interesting of a whole category is that? And all the spirits are, you know, different. And so you're like, well, let me see what this non-alcoholic tequila or non-alcoholic whiskey is about. And you can get like 3 different kinds to, you know, try out.
Yeah,
but
and that's really what we've tried to do, is create this environment where it's just easy to get exposed to it and try different things and see the variety and the depth of the product that's actually out there. And we're constantly changing, we're constantly bringing on new product, and it's really exciting time. And maybe on another call we can start talking about why this narrative has changed. We know it's changed, but it's interesting to really kind of dig into why it's changed. We're kind of running out of time, and I'll blame myself for this, because before we actually started recording, we had this great conversation about the business. It would have been boring for a lot of other people, but we were talking about packaging and things. So, but you know, you've created these brilliant products. If you could share a glass of Jøyus with someone, living or dead, who would that be, and why?
This one's an easy. It's like an easy question.
Oh, I thought that's a tough question.
That's an easy one. It'd be my great grandmother. So my great grandmother, I don't think a lot of people got this kind of experience. I mean, she lived to be 99, and she
Wow.
was just, yeah. And she lived like 5 minutes away from my house. Her and I would go over there like every Sunday,
Yeah.
and she'd make dinner and we'd paint. Like she was like this amazing watercolorist. And so we'd paint together. And she was cool too. I mean, she was born like 1901, you know what I mean? And so just like talking about, she's like, in her teens when she had was supposed to have really long hair, and she's like, but I hated it, so I went and I saved up my pennies and I got it all cut off. Like she was just like this badass woman, and like I grew up in a household that wasn't very kind, right? And so having like my great grandmother is just, she loved me and I loved her, and she was just like this. I think she would be really happy to see what I'm doing.
I think she'd be incredibly proud. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's easy.
Do you still paint?
Sometimes. Not nearly as much as I used to, because I don't have like a ton of time. But like sometimes I'll paint cookies because you can ice a cookie. Okay, so sober hobbies. I took magic classes for like a year at the
No way.
Castle. Oh yeah. Because like you're like sober people. Yeah, I don't know. I just got real into hobbies and classes, so I took that. But I took cake decorating classes because I was always really jealous of like the tools. Like you'd see them around, and I'm like, I want to know what those are about. So I took cake decorating classes, and then I got really into it. I could show you some pictures. It's really cool.
I want to see the magic. I want to see the pictures of the cakes. Right.
But like you can paint on cookies and you can paint on cakes, and it's very similar. It's very similar to watercolor, actually. So I do a lot of baking with my kids, and then we can actually tomorrow night we're gonna paint a bunch of like sugar cookies and gingerbread. My son calls them gingerbread mans.
Gingerbread mans.
Cookie mans.
Awesome.
Cookie mans. The cookie man house.
Are you gonna make this beautifully painted gingerbread house as well for your gingerbread mans?
Well, we made the gingerbread houses a couple days ago. Those came from Target, so those were like, that was a little bit easier. But the cookies will we'll decorate, we'll paint them all together, and it'll be
awesome.
It'll be fun. Yeah.
Jess, thanks for sharing that. Like that's such a cool story. Is there anything else that you would like our listeners to share with the audience today, just about Jøyus, about yourself, because I always want people to see that there's someone behind the label, that this doesn't come out of a factory, that there's a personality, that there's joy, there's a lot of sweat and hard work and tears behind every single one of these bottles.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, talk about, it's funny because we launched with the sparkling, right? Celebratory. I feel like the celebratory moments are the hardest ones to stay sober, but the red, the cab, I liked like red wine, and so that's actually the one we've been working on the longest. The one I was the most nervous to put out there, because the reds are the hardest. They have a higher alcohol content to begin with. There is this really interesting, red wine is an acquired taste, like coffee. Like you smell coffee and how you taste coffee, it's two different things. Children like the smell of coffee, they don't like the taste of coffee. So red wine has all these like physical and mental things going on, and so trying to capture all of that, you know what I mean, in a non-alcoholic wine, and that one I'm really, really, really excited about. I'm really excited that people like love it, because we're doing things that nobody else is doing. They're just not approaching things the same way, and like it has the tannins. Like you drink it, it'll dry your tongue out, your mouth out, like you're drinking an alcohol wine. It's really, I'm really,
Well, I think, you mentioned that red wine has higher alcohol content. The higher the alcohol content, if you're de-alcoholizing, you've got to take the alcohol out. And the
Yep.
more you engage in the wine, the more it tends to have a negative impact on
Yeah.
the flavor. So it is kind of some jujitsu, some magic, some creation, and obviously some
Challenging.
unique approaches to solving that challenge. So I
Well,
encourage everyone to just give it a try. It's a fantastic product.
thank
It's
you.
changing the landscape of non-alcoholic wine. And you know, when I think about where this industry is going to be in 5 years from now, I think this is one of those kind of watershed moments where we've started going away from just almost like an excuse, not an excuse, but here's a red wine because you have to drink non-alcoholic too. Here's a red wine
Yes.
because you choose to drink
That you like
non-alcoholic.
it.
Here's just a great wine that happens to
Yeah.
be non-alcoholic.
Yes.
And kind of where we want that's where we want the industry to move.
And that is how I feel working on all these. Like, we're always working and we're always working on them, and there's always stuff in development, and everything's going to just keep getting better and better and better and better. So, you know, it's like, if you love Jøyus wines now, I'm so excited with where we'll be like a year from now, you know, because like this rosé that won double gold, there's still stuff I'm like, well, what about this? What about that?
Yeah, that's like,
You know what I mean? Like,
well,
I just like, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a problem, never satisfied, right? But it's also, I mean, it's good for everybody else because I'm constantly, how can we be better? How can it be better?
I heard someone talking about an art. She was an artist, and she was talking about art and in her paintings. And she said that you're never done. You just choose to walk away. So knowing that you're going to work on something else, because you can always go back to it and fix it and change it and do this or do that, and you'll never be satisfied. You just have to choose to say, okay, that's complete, and then move on to the project. So you'll always be wanting to tinker and to change and to, which is awesome. So thank you, because we're the ones who benefit from it.
Yay. Yeah. Oh, and then kind of going back to your question, I would say for anybody like listening, keep going with, you know what I mean? Like, if there's something you're trying, like oh gosh, I'm living deep in gratitude right now for sure. Like, very, 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 very grateful with how much people love the wines and the reception they've gotten. And man, so much gratitude. But it's been a longer road than most folks realize to get here. And I would just say, like, everybody's got something that they want to do in their lives or they're trying to do. And I would just say, like, keep going. And if you need to take a break, take a break. I took during that time, that 7 years it took me, I had to take a break because it was overwhelmingly negative, you know, and sometimes a pause can be a good thing. And sometimes a lot of no's aren't actually no's. It's just not right now.
Yeah.
You know, and eventually you will talk to someone who says, hey, you know who you need to talk to? You need to talk to these folks over here. Oh, you know what? You should actually go do this. Or, hey, what about, you know, like it's like throwing darts at a dartboard and you just keep getting closer and closer until you hit it, you know? Well,
I will say that, you know, I've already a couple of times said, hey, you guys you got to get to know Jess. So just thank you so much for your time. I definitely want to do it again. Let's not wait as long. I've got so many more questions I'd love to ask you. But again, thank you. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. Again, Jessica Selander from Jøyus, a pleasure to have you, and look forward to doing it again soon. Thanks everybody.
Be here. Thank
Bye.
you.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Alcohol Free Radio. We'd love to hear from you. Send us a message on social media or through email at hello@betterroads.com. Great to be here with you all together. Take care.